Alright, you probably clicked on this video really angry, and I know you read the title. But before you go disliking this video, I am aware that the Nintendo Switch is quite literally the most successful Nintendo console ever created. I am also extremely aware that the Wii U was an absolutely major flop. I want to make it extremely clear that what I am discussing in this video is which console should a person right now in 2025 with the Switch 2 already on its way choose to buy. In the scenario where someone walks into GameStop and has to choose between a used Wii U or a used Nintendo Switch, I'm going to discuss why I think they should go with the Wii U. Trust me, I know it sounds crazy, but please finish this video before writing your disagreement. Okay, on with the video. The Nintendo Switch and the Wii U, both great systems that you certainly cannot go wrong with. Let's start off our debate with the most important thing about a console, the games that the console can play. The Nintendo Switch has a huge library of games. The best way that I could describe the library of Nintendo Switch games would be a celebration of Nintendo history. Beyond the Switch's vast catalog of original games, Nintendo has been remastering many of its older games that haven't seen the light of day in some time on this system. Game Boy Advance's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team was remastered as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team DX, and the 3DS's Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was remastered as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I believe that these remasters have come into place because of the sheer amount of people that have purchased Nintendo Switches, both because many Switch owners today weren't old enough to play these older games when they came out, or due to the fact that more people own Switches than have owned those previous consoles. There is certainly a large group of Switch owners who have never played these old Nintendo masterpieces. However, I won't get into this now, but the console that has the most games brought to the Switch than any other is the Wii U. Now, beyond the physical Switch games, the Nintendo Switch introduced a new kind of virtual console in the form of Nintendo Switch Online. By purchasing a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, Switch gamers can now play NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy, and Game Boy Advance games on their Nintendo Switch. The catch is that the entire library for each of these systems is not present on the Nintendo Switch Online, and many of the top games for each system aren't present as well, such as Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. You also must have an internet connection when loading up the software, or be the main account on your Nintendo Switch's subscription family. I personally have found the Nintendo Switch Online service to be an absolute joy to use. Many of these old games are amazing and still live up to the hype today, especially with the now ability of being able to play them online with your friends. With a wide range of Nintendo games on the Switch itself and the ability to play these old games in the Nintendo Switch Online, I feel like the only major hit that the Nintendo Switch takes regarding its library is the lack of backwards compatibility. Now, speaking of backwards compatibility, over to the Wii U. Now, the Wii U has backwards compatibility with Wii games, of course. But the way that Nintendo decided to accomplish this was by basically just putting Wii software into the Wii U. This means that you essentially have two consoles for the price of one. You can play all Wii games natively on your Wii U, no emulation required. Plus, since the Wii was essentially just a GameCube with motion controls, you can also play all of your GameCube games natively on the Wii U as well, using the homebrew software Nintendo. That's 3 generations of consoles playing natively on your Wii U system. Now, I hear what you're saying, Brad Pack, all of these consoles are older systems. Now, first off, I'd say that these 3 systems, the GameCube, Wii, and Wii U, are absolutely amazing consoles still today, and together host a library of over 3,000 games. But if you truly need modern games on your system, there have been over 20 Wii U games ported to the Nintendo Switch, and many might just be your beloved modern games that you're referring to here. In fact, 3.5 of the Nintendo Switch's top 10 games are just Wii U games that have been brought over to the Nintendo Switch. Mario Kart 8, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and New Super Mario Bros. U have all been brought over to the Switch and have cracked the top 10 most popular games on that system. I say a half there because Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has also cracked the top 10 Switch games, and on the Wii U, you can play Smash 4. Now, I give it a half there because while the games are very similar, there is definitely major differences, so that's why a half. So, that's some Nintendo Switch games, the entire Wii U library, the entire Wii library, and the entire GameCube library on your Wii U system, and we still haven't even begun to talk about emulation. Now, the Wii U can quite literally emulate every single previous Nintendo console from the NES to the Wii U flawlessly. Now, I hear what you're saying. So can the Switch. And you're right, sort of. Now, while the Switch can emulate and run all of these old systems and games, the most challenging systems to emulate of Nintendo's are the DS and 3DS due to, well, their unique two screens. Well, I have seen some impressive workarounds for this on the Switch, where players put the Switch into handheld mode and turn it sideways to behave more like a 2DS. You'll never be able to play these games in docked mode on your big screen. The Wii U covers this problem with ease and gives you options. The asynchronous screen of the Wii U gamepad works perfectly as a DS/3DS touchscreen, allowing you to use your TV as the top screen and the gamepad as the bottom screen. However, if you have a game that needs more focus on the touchscreen, no problem. Switch to the Virtual Console settings and now that one's on the big screen. Speaking of the Virtual Console, the Wii U does this so much better than the Switch in my opinion. I love that when I download a Virtual Console game onto my Wii U, that becomes my game. I own it. I don't have to pay for a subscription or be connected to the internet to play it. My biggest fear with Nintendo Switch's version of this is I've been paying for my subscription quite literally from the first month that NSO had released the N64. If Nintendo ever shuts down those servers, like they have with every other console that they've ever released, am I gonna lose access to all of my games? That would not be something that I would be willing to risk when choosing between these two consoles. The last thing to mention about Wii U's games is that there are many games on the Wii U that may never be able to be seen on another console. See, due to the uniqueness of the Wii U's design, having an asynchronous gamepad and then 4 other players playing synchronously on the main TV, games like Nintendo Land will never be able to be ported to future consoles unless Nintendo releases some sort of gamepad-like accessory to a future system. So, if what you want is the ability to play the maximum amount of games from the existing Nintendo library, I think that the Wii U actually has the ability to play more games from that library. Now, to get away from the games themselves, I also feel that the Wii U is a much better entertainment hub than the Nintendo Switch. Now, while many people today own a Roku or Fire Stick to use for their streaming services, game systems that support streaming services make things even more convenient, especially in a world that is so impatient like today. The Switch supports YouTube and Hulu, which is absolutely great and better than nothing. However, on the Wii U, you of course get YouTube and Hulu, but you also get Netflix and Prime Video. Now, while all of these were officially discontinued on the Wii U, all have been available thanks to Homebrew and are just as functional as they were when Nintendo supported them. Now the real kicker here is the lack of an internet browser on the Nintendo Switch. The Wii U's internet browser still works perfectly today without any homebrewing necessary. So even if you wanted to use a newer streaming service like Peacock or Paramount Plus, you could still access them on your Wii U system from the internet browser. I know that to some, all they need their gaming system to do is play video games. However, having a gaming system and entertainment hub and internet browser all booted up from the same place is certainly a convenient system and definitely more convenient than the Nintendo Switch. Next, I want to talk about performance. Now, on paper, the Nintendo Switch is a much more powerful system than the Wii U, and I will not argue against that. However, the Switch does tend to struggle with some games due to lower resolution or frame rate issues. Now, I found a lot of complaints online that say that ported Wii U games run much better on the Wii U than their Nintendo Switch counterpart. I should mention that I personally have not had any issues in this department. Any of my Wii U games or any of my Nintendo Switch games, even being the same game, seem to run fine on both systems. However, I have personally ran into some Nintendo Switch exclusive titles, like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, drop so many frames that I have refused to pick it back up and continue playing the game. As for the Wii U, I have yet to find any title that the system struggles with. Now, as mentioned before, the convenience of having all of your entertainment in one system is super nice. How about social media as well? While mainstream social media can of course be accessed from the Wii U's internet browser, you know, the internet browser that isn't present on the Switch, Nintendo's specific social media is also available on the Wii U. The Miiverse was something that many gamers, including myself, absolutely love. In fact, I feel that the presence of the Miiverse in a game like Super Mario 3D World actually makes it a better version than its Nintendo Switch counterpart. Seeing what others had to say about levels, or finding a Tingle Bottle in the Great Sea in Wind Waker HD, created an extra layer of connectivity while playing these games. It made us feel less alone, and made a single-player game like Zelda feel more like a large-scale MMO. Finding a Tingle Bottle made me feel like there were other travelers sailing the seas and I just missed running into them. Once again, this is a feature that has been discontinued by Nintendo, but still lives on today perfectly thanks to Pretendo, and can be accessed for free by anyone who is connected to the internet and has a homebrewed Wii U. Which brings me to my last point, internet connection. Playing video games online is something that truly means a lot to me and many other gamers. When I was a kid, having my friends all come over to my house to play games together was one of the most fun things that we could do. Now, as we have all grown up and moved to different parts of the world, I have loved that we've been able to stay connected by playing games online. The Wii U can connect online for absolutely no financial cost to the user. While you of course will need to homebrew your device, that still doesn't cost any extra money. Now, the Nintendo Switch has become the first Nintendo console to require a subscription for online play. Now, I don't necessarily see this as a bad thing, especially if it means you're going to get a better online service, but it is certainly something to consider when deciding between these two consoles. Now, in conclusion, there are some important things that I really want to say. First off, I love both of these consoles dearly. If it were up to me, I would definitely choose both. In fact, I own a Wii U and a Nintendo Switch. In fact, I own 2 Nintendo Switches. While I do stand by my point that the Wii U can play every previous Nintendo console game, thus allowing for more games to be played on its system, that is mostly due to the massive libraries of the DS and 3DS being able to be easily played on the Wii U and not easily played on the Nintendo Switch. If I were to give you my truly honest opinion to anyone deciding between a used Wii U or a used Nintendo Switch, I would have to probably say the Nintendo Switch, and that is for one specific reason: the absolute massive amount of Nintendo Switch users. Of course, if you and your friend group already have Wii U's, go right ahead and pick one up so you can game with them. But if they are already Nintendo fans and have a Wii U, they probably also have a Nintendo Switch. Like I started this video out saying, the Nintendo Switch is in fact the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. Now, when it comes to the amount of games it can play and entertainment convenience, the Wii U is a better system. But I think that the amount of Switch users might just make all of those previous points virtually irrelevant. Now, I want to end this video on that note, as I think this video will make many Switch fans angry. I'm curious how many will write a negative review before reaching this point of the video. So, Switch fans, if you made it this far, thank you for sticking it out. I'm a huge Switch fan too. But you have to admit, there are some things that the Wii U just simply does better. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. Thank you for watching, you wonderful people, and I'll see you next time.